Hello there, Kevin here with another episode of the Feel Good English podcast, bringing you life-changing lessons from the best books that I read, break down, and then share with you. Today's lesson is going to help you simplify your to-do list. It's also going to show you what goals you should focus on. If you have a lot of goals, this will help you focus on the one or two goals that are most important and will bring most benefits to your life. If you're feeling stressed out, if you think you just have too many things to do and you feel like you're always busy, always trying to get things done and it's never ending, the book today will show you how to simplify and gain clarity on what you should focus on each and every day. So listen to this episode, gain clarity and focus in your life and English, and become a happier human being. If you want a transcript to this episode, go to feelgoodenglish.com/member to learn how you can get transcripts to this. Transcripts are free for the Feel Good members. So head on over to feelgoodenglish.com and you too can become a Feel Good member. Now let's get into the lesson. In the year 1906, an Italian economist named Vilfredo Pareto noted that 80% of Italy's land was owned by 20% of the people. This guy, Pareto, became obsessed with this ratio and started seeing it in everything. For example, he observed that 80% of the peas in his garden came from 20% of his pea plants. Not all of them, only 20% of them. This 80-20 ratio of cause to effect became known as the Pareto Principle. And the basic definition of the Pareto Principle is 80% of effects come from 20% of the causes. So to make this clearer, let me just give you some different examples, and maybe you will connect with some of these. If you're a project manager, 80% of the problems originate with 20% of the projects. Or if you're a manager, 80% of the work is completed by 20% of your team. In technology, 80% of customers only use 20% of the actual software features you've created. Or 80% of software problems are caused by 20% of bugs. If you're in sales, 80% of the sales come from 20% of your sales people. 80% of the sales come from 20% of your products. 80% of your complaints come from 20% of your customers. Now you hear me using the same number, 80%, 20%. One thing you don't need to do is think that it's always these exact same numbers. That's just a very oversimplification. It basically means a very small portion causes a very large result. So 20% of your customers cause 80% of your complaints. Maybe it's actually 10% of your customers cause 90% of your complaints. Or even 10% of your customers cause 60% of your complaints. It doesn't have to be exactly 100. So applying this to your life, let's say you apply it to your business. Let's say you have all of these different tasks that you need to do. Start looking into the tasks that are most important, the ones that bring the biggest results. Maybe in relationships with your wife or girlfriend or boyfriend. Maybe you'll notice that 20% of what you do causes 80% of the fights or arguments with your partner. There's a couple things you guys talk about, and those are the things that always cause the problems. So what can you do? Stop talking about those things. Maybe it's money. You have fights about money, but you only talk about it once a week, but you always end up arguing over this. So learn how to avoid that situation. In English, maybe you do all of these different things and you practice reading and writing and listening and grammar, and you have all of these different things, but if you focus on what's most important, especially what's most important to you at this moment, you'll do less and achieve more. If you want an example, most people will benefit greatly from doing a lot of listening and reading in English. So if you focus most of your time on listening and reading, which was called input, you will achieve the biggest results. You don't have to do all of those other things, speaking all the time, studying grammar, memorizing lists. Listening and reading to good content will bring you the best results. So focus most of your time on that. Another great way to apply this 80-20 law is with goals. And I want you to do something now. So this is an actionable step from this podcast episode. You don't have to do it this moment. Maybe you're not in a place where you can write this down. But after this, if you're going to take a lesson from this episode, do this. Go home and write down 10 goals you have for your life. They could include English goals, life goals, relationship goals, career goals, whatever that may be. Choose one goal out of that list that if you could achieve it in 24 hours would bring the biggest value to your life. It would make you the happiest. Which one is that? That is your most important goal. Now choose another one. What's the second most valuable goal that if you could achieve it in 24 hours, it would make your life much, much better? Those two goals now become the most important goals for you to focus on. That's your 20%. The other 80% is not as important. Doesn't mean you can throw those goals away, but it means you're going to focus on the first two goals that you marked as most important. Focus most of your day, most of your time on those two things. In the beginning of the day, focus on that. Like in the episode about Eat That Frog from Brian Tracy, those big frogs, those big ugly tasks that are the most important, yet often the most challenging, are the ones you should focus on. Maybe these are all English goals. So what are your English goals? Speak better, give meetings, presentations. Look at the ones that are most important for you. What's most important? To understand native speakers, to improve your pronunciation, whatever that may be. And focus on only the top two that you think will bring the biggest value for you. And find tasks and exercises and courses based on those two tasks. Now, this isn't something you can always do instantly. So it takes practice, especially if you're looking at business and systems and things at work. You have a lot of different things. So maybe just start small and just start looking for things that you find unnecessary. Maybe checking your email first thing in the day is not effective for you because it distracts you from what really needs to get done. So that gets removed from your list of things to do. Maybe you need to delegate certain tasks to other people, tasks that will get in your way, so you can focus on the main tasks that need to get done. So start small. Start noticing what's wasting your time and start looking for certain things that really bring the best results. What bring the best results for your company, for your manager, or for your business? What bring the best results for school, for your tests, for studying? Don't think 1 minute in equals 1 minute out. What you'll notice is that 2 minutes of the right thing will bring you 8 minutes of results, as opposed to wasting a lot of time on things. If you have any questions on English, feel free to send me a message at kevin@feelgoodenglish.com, and I can help you with some ideas on what to focus on for English. Again, repeating, if you really don't know what to do, focus most of your time on listening and reading. Input should make up 80% of what you're doing with English. The other 20% could be speaking practice. Going over some of the vocab from this lesson, at 18 seconds I used the phrasal verb break down. To break down something, I said I break down books means I simplify them. I break them into pieces. So to break something down means to simplify it, to make it clear, to take something large and make it smaller and clearer. So there's a lot of ideas and words and messages from a book. I break them down into a few easy to implement ideas. 1 minute 32 seconds, I say head on over to feelgoodenglish.com. To head over or head on over simply means to go. It's an expression we use. To head over means to go. I'm headed over to my friend's house. I'm headed over to the bank. Head on over is more of a friendly expression. Head on over to the party. Just means to go to the party. 1 minute 56 seconds, ratio, R-A-T-I-O. It's an effect of one number to the other or the amount of one to the other. Say at a party, this party's great. The ratio of girls to guys is 4-1. That means there's 4 girls to 1 guy. 40 girls, 10 guys. 80 girls, 20 guys. Or the ratio of minorities in this population is 1 to 10, meaning 10% of the population is made up of minorities. 4 minutes and 55 seconds talking about input. When we're talking about input with linguistics, with language learning, what we mean is putting that information into your head, putting the language into your head, which usually comes from either reading or listening or watching something. So there's input, information going into your brain, words and vocab, and then there's output, which would be producing the language, speaking or writing. In my teaching style and from the research that I've done, input is very, very valuable. Reading and listening to real English, native spoken, native written English is what will make you an excellent English speaker. 7 minutes, 35 seconds to delegate. To delegate something is to give somebody else the responsibility of a task. If you own a company, if you're a manager, if you're a supervisor, you need to delegate responsibilities to other people. You need to give other people responsibilities and tasks to do so you don't have to try to do everything yourself. It can be hard for some people to delegate sometimes. Get in your way. To get in your way, when something gets in your way, it becomes an obstacle. So something is in your way, it's getting in your way. All of these problems are getting in my way of success. Or the neighbors, they cause a lot of noise at night. It's getting in the way of my sleep. So you say, get out of my way. And another phrasal verb, 8 minutes, 37 seconds, should make up. This should make up 80% of your practice. To make up is to constitute. This makes up 80%. Or 20% of your actions make up 80% of your results. There's other uses of make up, but in this way, when we say something makes up a certain amount, it means that it constitutes that amount. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Feel Good English podcast. The 80-20 Principle, The Secret to Achieving More with Less by Richard Koch is a great way to simplify your life, gain clarity, and learn how to focus on only what's most important. You can find a link to this book on my website, feelgoodenglish.com. Listen to the audiobook, which is great, or you can download the digital book as well. Again, to get the transcripts, go to feelgoodenglish.com/member to learn how you can get free transcripts to this episode, so you can apply the 80-20 rule by reading the transcript. Leaving you with a joke for the day. An employee asked his boss for Thursday off so he and his wife could celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary. His boss said, "Okay, it's okay this time, but I don't intend to put up with this every 25 years. Those darn bosses." Hope you enjoyed this. See you in the next lesson.